I got the moon in the background. What's happening? Me and my, what do you call it? Actually told me to go to lunch early today, so unfortunately I had to go to lunch early. I don't like that, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's the only car on the road, feel me? Doing my little recording back. You know what I mean? I got a subject on wild. What's the difference between wild animals and domesticated animals? You feel me? That's gonna be for later on today when I get out, but I just wanted to give an update on that. So wild animals, not really an update, a briefing. There's a difference between a wild animal. A wild animal is just an animal that lives in the wild. What they call the wild is forest or nature. Domesticated animals, just like has been domesticated to fit a society, like cats, dogs, and whatever animals that you niggas like, monkeys or lions in zoos. Any kind of animal that can be domesticated, like whales at water park. These are all domesticated animals. Any animal in the zoo is a domesticated animal. And I want to talk about this because you have to look out into nature to understand who you are as a human being. And just like these animals are domesticated or can be domesticated, any animal of its kind, we humans, by large, are also domesticated. Almost none of us is wild. There's only a few of us that's wild. And wild necessarily does not mean that you have to live off grid. It will help to enhance your thinking. But wild as in what is the best way for us to think as a human being. You feel me? Since we are domesticated, we cannot think like a wild human. And wild does not mean crazy, you feel me? Just a person that lives natural, or you live in nature. The natural world is wild. We call it wild because we have manipulated, or we have the ability to manipulate our environment to conform to our needs. As you can see, I see a car driving by. That's a manipulation of the environment. You see buildings, manipulation, electricity, manipulate, heat, air condition. Everything that we have, the world that we live in has been domesticated. You feel me? There's Babylon or whatever. The modern time, the current world that we live in is, hold on. Oh shit. Well, the current world that we live in is domesticated. It is not the natural world. It's built on top of the natural world. You understand? But that means that most of us are not thinking like a natural man. We are thinking like a domesticated animal. We being programmed. You feel me? They're giving us ideas on what to think on. So most people don't even know how to form their own thinking. All they're doing is mimicking somebody else's behavior. So they're not forming their own thinking. So we have the difference between a wild man like myself and others, and you have a lot of domesticated niggas. You feel me? And most of the lifestyle or the things that they claim they are privileged thoughts. It's privilege. And that privilege, the privilege was gained from a domesticated world. So even the identity that they think they are, they're not even that. It's only a fantasy. You feel me? So most of the things that they think they are, it's fantasy. It's not real. So you gotta look at the wild animals. The difference between a wild animal and domesticated animal. Every time they release a domesticated animal into the wild, that animal dies in less than a year because it cannot survive in the wild world. But every time they capture a wild animal and bring it into a domesticated world, he always is extra aggressive in the beginning. Because in its mind, it has to protect itself. Because he sees, the wild animal sees other domesticated animals, immediately takes control of that crew, becomes the leader of that crew. Then every time the human approach, he's mad at the human for turning that animal into what it is today, which is basically a dummy or a robot. There's no difference between a domesticated animal and AI robots. So a wild human is true intelligence because he can actually think. A domesticated man or human, a domesticated human has artificial intelligence. Most of his intelligence are made up. They tell him how to dress. They tell him how to think. They tell him who he is. They tell him his sexuality. They tell him what to like, what not to like. Don't like these people, like these people. You understand? Program. A wild animal is an animal. It's not just an animal that just go out and is vicious and everything else. They turn to experience life on its own. Then they gain the information that they've learned from their experience. So they get to think on the job. As they going through the wild, they're picking up on everything. So they gain a lot of information and they become wise in the way they form their thinking in their mind. A domesticated man don't have to do none of that. You feel me? Everything is already there for him. All he has to do is have multiple choice and he gets to choose. And he's never wrong. Heard that? Well, I'm about to go to work right now. I think I got a few minutes. So that's the difference between the domesticated. So you gotta look at yourself and see, who are you? Are you a domesticated man or are you a wild man? I'm not wild because I have a lot of facial hair. I'm wild because of the way I think, the way I form my thoughts. You feel me? My mindset is like the face of a lion. Every time I speak, be like, Your mindset is like a face of a cat. Meow, like, you feel me? Y'all niggas is just soft with the way I think. Y'all easily offended. Hold on. I got 10 minutes. Y'all easily offended. It's baffling to me. You feel me? You have these two mindsets. You have to have a wild mindset. Wild mindset does not mean violence. No. Your nature is different from an animal's nature. You feel me? Everything in nature, every animal in nature has a different function in the nature, which meaning their instinct is different from the next animal, which meaning their thinking is different from the next animal. Since we are animals too, and we're on top of the food chain, which meaning we human beings, a wild one at that, has its way of thinking, has its own nature, and you have to find out. I know they're trying to shine it light in your face. It's all good. If you can't see me, then you blind. That means so a human being has its own way of thinking, and how a wild human at that has its own way of thinking and how it needs to operate in the world, instead of it being domesticated and programmed to benefit somebody else, like a system. You know what I mean? You know how that go. So we gotta get back into how to think properly as a human being on top of the food chain. We cannot think like animals because we are not animals. If the person can have the ability to manipulate an environment, right? If the human beings have the ability to manipulate an environment, then that means that you are on top of the food chain. Although you are part of the animal kingdom, you're on top of it. You are in control of it. You are in control of it. Because we still have the ability to domesticate these animals. We do. And that's what we do. We capture them, we put them in zoos and everything else like that. So we can't think like them. We have to think beyond that, and we have to carry ourselves with a little more respect. We have to have dignity. We have to have integrity. We have to have truth in us. You feel me? Our nature has to be completely different from the animal nature. Our function is also completely different. You know what I mean? I'm not separating, but before we even get to that stage, we have to differentiate the difference between a wild man and a domesticated man. We can't even get to the separating yourself from the animals, because there's some animals in human form among us. You dig? I got 2 minutes. I shouldn't even record anymore. And I just farted. I have to be honest. You feel me? I had to hit him with the poom poom. So people look at a wild animal in the wild and be like, "Whoa, they so vicious and everything else like that." It's part of the function of their system. That's all. There's nothing violent really in nature. I never seen a lion that just killed because it wants to kill. A lion only kills when it's hungry and it needs to eat. You feel me? Nothing is wasted. The wild is very sufficient and efficient. It doesn't waste nothing just to waste it. Most of the waste that's in the world is created by the domesticated world. You see the plastic and everything else like that. A shark, look at the way a shark operates. A shark is like the police of the sea. Anything that's not moving, it comes and eats. It smells blood, so it's literally cleaning the sea itself. You feel me? I don't want to actually laughing at me. It's literally cleaning. It's very nature, or it's very function. Now, when we think about sharks, we think about jaws, when we think about the violence. Oh my God, but you're not looking at what they're doing, how they think, and the instinct. When I say think, not literally thinking like us, but their instinct, or they function, or the fundamental of who they are. And that's just, you can't look at it from just the aggression point of view. They're supposed to be aggressive. It's the wild, for God's sakes. That's how they survive. It's on top of the food chain all the way down to the bottom of the sea. The crabs and the rodents, each and everything in this world, including the wild and domesticated nature, is survival. So of course you gotta protect yourself. That's why they aggressive. Be aggressive too at times. When a nigga gets scared, watch how aggressive he comes. You feel me? If he has the ability to be aggressive. But it's just for survival reasons, that's all. I'm gonna talk more on this topic. I wanna get deep into the wild thinking, which is the way that we gonna go, versus this domesticated thinking that keep getting worse and worse and worse. It's not working. It's actually destroying mankind. It's destroying the man itself. That's what it's doing. But anyway, I gotta go. I usually don't record at this time, but I'm like, fuck it. They want to send me on break early. It's just retarded, you feel me? Can't believe it. Ooh, she on.